Welcome everyone to this conversation about technology, online behavior, and well-being. We are Lucio Lid and David Caballero, founders of Evolving Education and your hosts in today's webinar. This session is part of NADYW, an Erasmus project co-funded by the European Union focused on improving the well-being of youth workers. The goal of this project is to take care of those who take care of others. And as part of it, we want to bring awareness about some key elements that can nurture our well-being so that we can become role models of well-being for youth. Each podcast is supported by a step-by-step guide so that you can move to action easily. You can already find and download the PDF guide supporting this episode in the description of this video if you're watching it on YouTube, or in NADYW's website if you're listening to the podcast.
Yes, thank you, David, for the presentation. And today we are diving into a topic that affects all of us, but especially young people, and his digital life and his impact on well-being. We are honored to be joined by David Šmahel, professor at Masaryk University in the Czech Republic, and a leading expert on how the internet and digital technologies influence young people's development and also their health. His current research focuses on adolescent and adults' internet use, also the online risks for children, the construction of online identities and virtual relationships, and online addictive behavior. So thank you very much, David, for joining us today. And we're really excited to explore with you all your research and all that you can teach us. And also so we can support better young people and also ourselves navigating this digital world. So
Hello, and thank you so much for the invitation.
It's a pleasure to come with you. And as we were talking before starting, we were going to start with an easy question of if you can summarize the last 20 years. No, for real, we're really interested in how the past 20 years have affected us, has affected our interaction with technology, with the internet, particularly for children and adolescents. So what changes have you observed in how young people and people in general relate to technology?
Well, this is really not a very easy question for my last 20 years of research when I published more than 100 articles about those changes. So just if I can give you a very easy answer, very simple answer, I just checked that the Facebook started 2004. So 20 years ago, there was just a start of social networking. And before that, there were just blogs starting, and there were less communication on the internet in the sense of social networking. So I would say the biggest change is the move to the social networking, which is everywhere now. On the other hand, if I can continue, I was not sure if you want to go with other question. On the other hand, I would say that what we observed in our research, that kind of developmental tasks which adolescents have are still stable. They were same before the internet, like sexual development, finding friends, exploring identity, exploring romantic relationships. So this kind of developmental tasks are stable over years and years, and the internet didn't change them in the end. And the internet and digital technology just gave tools to adolescents what they can do and how they can explore and identity, for example, and how they can move to these tasks, let's say. So development is still same, just the scene is changing.
The outside world and how we relate to it has changed, but still we still develop the same way.
Exactly.
Can you tell us more about the social media in particular, how it has affected how we relate to each other and also our relationships in the real world and the digital? Because now there is a completely new world that didn't exist before. So if you can.
Yeah, yes, because you share that it hasn't changed much, but I think if we will ask any parent or any educator, they will say that well, before children were playing on the streets and then they were going out at night and so on. Now they spend way more time on their phones with gaming and even on social media really late at night. I know some of my cousins and uncles are always complaining that they see the lights on at 2 or 3 a.m. Because they still are connected to their phones.
Mhm. The question how social networking is impacting youth is still quite hard. I'm even surprised that it is so hard because there were hundreds, maybe thousands of research on that topic, but we still don't have very clear answers. There is one problem in the up-to-date research that majority, even 90% of more of the research is so-called cross-sectional. That means it can give you results in terms of correlation, but not the causality. So if you see, for example, there were a lot of research showing correlations between using social networks or passive usage of social networks and, for example, depressive mood, or let's say negative aspect, anxiety, or negative mood. But we don't know what was first. If the research is cross-sectional, we don't know if the social networks are causing depressivity, for example, or anxiety, or if it is vice versa, that people who are depressive or who are anxious are using social networks more. And you need more complex designs to answer those questions. And there is still not enough research on that. And this research, which is using these causal designs, what is, for example, longitudinal research, where you access same people, same adolescents in several ways, or so-called ecological momentary assessment study, where adolescents have questionnaires every day in the mobile phones, even several questionnaires. And in this way, where you can see the time series, you can give answers in terms of causality, what was first. But this kind of research is not giving very clear answers in the end. If I can summarize, it seems that for 80 or even 90% of adolescents, there is no impact of using social media on well-being. But this research is using different logic than this correlational research. The logic is when you start using social networks more or less than your average, what it is doing with you. Like if I now decrease the level of my social networking, will I will be less depressive or less anxious, or will have better mood? So this is the question which this kind of research is trying to answer. For majority, there is no impact, no association, no effect of using social networks on well-being. But for some adolescents, the impact is negative. It can be between 5 to 10% of adolescents who has negative impact from using social networks. And for the rest, like 5%, the impact is even positive. So there are differences, and it depends on the individual and what adolescent is doing with social networks, for example.
Thank you for sharing that, David. That's really interesting. So I guess that the way the studies are designed, and these are social studies, so really complex to know out of the multiple things that are changing in society, which one is causing because I think there's I think I wouldn't be wrong to say that there's an increase in the percentage of youth that are experimenting mental health issues, right? So there's a
Yes.
rise in that. But now, what is causing that increase is not so clear.
Exactly. It's not clear. You are right that in many countries there is increase of these mental health problems. But on the other hand, in the HBSC study, you can see that the life satisfaction is changing very little. So not all the studies are exploring that there is increase of mental health problems in every country. There are differences, is various, and it depends on what you are looking. If it's really a share of depressive people, or it is mean of life satisfaction, let's say. So this can give you different pictures. And if people ask me what can cause the increase of mental health problems, for example, in the mentioned HBSC study, they found correlations with school pressure, for example. So we can have the hypothesis that school pressure is increasing across years as well. Also, environmental problems and environmental crisis, which we have. There is a war in Europe, so there are several issues which can cause this increase of health problems among adolescents.
Okay, that's interesting that there's not so clear this view. I wonder whether there was any study about kind of different regions and the use of digital media in those different regions, like youth using more or less digital media in different countries or in different parts of the same country, and whether there was a difference in their well-being or in their sense of self-worth, relationships, and so on.
Mhm. Yeah, for example, in the UKIDS online project, we collected data from 19 European countries about usage of adolescents of digital technology and positives and also risks, online risks. But in the end, there is no clear pattern saying that where adolescents use internet more, they are less satisfied. It's nothing like that. So there are no clear patterns. There are differences in the usage. There are differences in the amount of risks which adolescents have across countries, but there is not clear answer in terms what it is causing for the well-being, for example, or mental health problems.
Thank you. And maybe for the people that are listening, I think to start from kind of a common understanding of what it is that we're talking about, how is adolescents' online behavior right now? Like, how does it look like? How many hours do they spend on their phones? Where do they spend their time? What type of contents are they exposed to? What could you tell us about the general kind of patterns of behavior?
So maybe I will start from that what they are doing. So in most countries, the first number one is entertainment. That means videos and listening music. This is what they do at most. For example, YouTube is the most used application very typically. Such as we used in 1 hour research, we used objective data and adolescents had an application in their mobile phones, and the application was recording what they are doing, and the YouTube was number one. I can find this maybe, but maybe I will not waste time. So the first thing is entertainment. The second thing is also not surprising, and it is communication. So they communicate. They are using messengers to communicate to each other, to communicate with family, and they are using also social networks for the communication and social networking. Like the border between social networks and communication is more and more blurred because, for example, on Instagram, there is communication is included in the application. So you cannot say, even if you know time on the Instagram, you don't know how much was communication in the messenger and how much was the scrolling, on the Instagram. Then it is partly online gaming, but it is less for part of adolescents, but it is less than social networking, definitely. And online gaming is more issue of boys, and social network is more issue of girls. So girls are using more social networks than boys, and boys are more gaming than girls.
And on
Yeah.
average, how much time do they spend?
Mhm. I think it was in this objective data, it was about 4 hours. So maybe give me Give me a minute, so I will find these numbers
Sure.
to give you exact numbers. I'm opening it. Okay, I got it. Yes. So overall, it was over 4 hours daily
Mm-hmm.
on mobile phone only, plus possibly PC or notebooks or tablets. So this is the average of these 4 hours or 205 50 minutes. 74 minutes was social networking, 21 minutes communication, and 1 hour of entertainment daily.
Okay.
As a girls spent a little more time on with mobile phone than boys. For girls, it was 4 hours and a half, and for boys, it was little less than 4 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
Those are average hours which adolescents spend with mobile phones.
Mhm. And I know that a focus of your research is about online identities and online addiction as well. Um, I wonder, like we're talking now about time, how much time that they're spending online. When can we say that that use of technology is becoming addictive?
Mhm. There is no answer on this question because time on media is not a criterion of the addiction. For example, a lot of adolescents use media or digital technology a lot for school. I am on digital technology practically 8 hours or more daily because of the work, and I'm learning Spanish, for example, with Duolingo as well. But I cannot say I'm addicted. The criteria for the addiction are quite strict, and a lot of parents think that their adolescents are addicted, but for majority of cases it's not correct, because these criteria are based on symptoms which adolescents have. And these symptoms, for example, are uh, salience, that they think a lot about the thing which they do on the internet. For example, about the gaming or social networks, they are kind of overwhelmed by that, thinking on it all the time. Then the mood change, meaning that when the person is coming to that activity, he or she is happier and feeling more happy when being online in that activity. Another criteria similar to normal drugs is relapse, for example. And relapse means that the person tried to stop the activity because he or she knows that it has a destructive impact on the life, but was not successful with stopping or limiting the activity. And the most important is conflict, which is in many criteria is like number one or most important criteria, meaning the conflict with other people, for example, that those people have to hide the activity or preferring the activity to offline contact, losing friends, or conflict with the work or school. For example, adolescents can have worse marks in the school, or adults can lose work even, or the conflict can be even intrapersonal. Like I have conflict with myself because I know that this activity is distracting my life and it's problem for my life, but I'm unable to change it. And when all these criteria are together, all of them are present, then the person is addicted. So you can see that it's quite strict. And for adolescents, the research shows, the representative research typically shows that between, let's say, 3 to 10% maximally, most serious research around 5% could be diagnosed as having online addiction, let's say.
Thank you. Thank you. That's useful to know that while they might be using it for many hours a day, it might just be part of the social changes that are happening across society, and it's not necessarily a um, something that is showing addiction. At least in a percentage of them, there might be like 5% already sounds to me like quite a high percentage of people can turn addictive. If we take the whole population, considering that everyone is having a phone in their hands like 24 hours a day.
Yeah. But taking in account that they are on the phone 4 or 5 hours per day in average, there is big group being on the phone or technology 8 or 10 hours per day, and it still doesn't mean they are addicted. There is correlation between time online and the addiction, but the time is not symptom or criterion of the online addiction.
Thank you. And also, a lot of the things that we do online can affect how we perceive ourselves. In fact, we can have kind of online identities that are distant from who we are in the real world. Could you share a little bit more about that concept of online identities and also the impact that it might have in well-being?
Mhm. This is very old concept. Maybe even the first book which I read about internet was fascinating for me. Life on the Screen from Sherry Turkle. This book is even, I think, from 1999 or something like this. So even more than 25 years old. And in this book, Turkle is speaking exactly about these options of disconnection of online identity and offline identity and pretending of being someone else. But coming to reality in the empirical research, this didn't show up so much in the research and empirical results. It seems that adolescents are not so much doing that. It's only for very low percent of adolescents. And don't ask me please what percent, because this research is already very old and this concept is kind of out of date. And it seems that adolescents are rather using digital technology and the internet in line with their developmental tasks, so not pretending being someone else or pretending being anything, but rather having advantage in their normal life.
Okay.
Okay, so digital world is kind of an extension of ourselves, but it's not a replacement or a change from it. It's more of a different way in which we are presenting ourselves.
If it is becoming a replacement or too much pretending, it is clearly connecting to some kind of pathology mostly, and there is high chance that such person have also problems in normal life. It can be connected to online addiction, and it is valid for a very low percent of people, very probably.
This is so interesting what you're sharing, because at the same time it's so conflicting with the kind of the things that the information I'm exposed to. Like you mentioned the book Life on the Screen. One of the recent ones that I've been into have been The Anxious Generation, which has become quite a bestseller and talks about the impact on well-being on children. And a documentary film that also quite recent on Netflix, that is The Social Dilemma, also brought a lot of interest about how Facebook, how these likes and so on were kind of reinforcement mechanisms to help people keep track of kind of keep connecting and looking for external validations through the social media platforms. I know there's a recent series also online that had a big impact on families about suicides in schools and their connection with potential cyberbullying, for instance. So overall, I will say that there seems to be quite a concern for the impact of social media platforms on youth well-being. There are countries like Australia, for instance, that have banned directly social media for young people under 16. And in Spain, for instance, there are family groups. There's one called Adolescencia Libre de Móviles, so adolescents free of phones, that what they try to do is to reach agreements among families so that their children don't feel the peer pressure to have a phone and have social networks, but rather they meet in person and supporting them to create that more in-person ecosystem. And that group is actually part of collectives of families. I know that they're also in lots of other countries, in the UK, in Mexico. So I would love to know how we pair these two realities, no? The data that doesn't allow us, as you said, objective data doesn't show correlation, but no causality. And at the same time, all these concerns from adults about the impact that they can have on children.
Yeah. This is very complex question. Maybe I will start from you mentioned some books which are on the other hand saying that digital technology is the problem, and even very popular books like Anxious Generation from Jonathan Haidt, for example. Uh, Not sure if you read or know our review of this book, which we published at the blog Digital Parenting at LSE, the blog of Sonia Livingstone. I will share the link in the chat. This is the review of the book Anxious Generation. And these books typically have several problems. The author typically wants to become very famous with the book and wants to sell it optimally best. And what is best sold and bought by parents is a lot of criticism of digital media and the internet. And in this case, we have several points why the book is not good. For example, the Haidt is doing so-called cherry picking of the research, meaning that if there is some topic, there is, for example, 50 articles about the topic. So let's speak about the negative impact of well-being, for example, negative impact of using technology on well-being. So what Haidt is doing, from 50 articles, there is maybe 45 saying there is no impact, 2 are saying the impact is positive, and 3 are saying that the impact is negative. So the Haidt is cherry picking using these 3 pieces of research from 50 when the results are clearly negative, showing that the impact is negative. But this is not how we work in science. We should give the complex picture, showing that other 45 pieces of research showed there is no effect. What is Haidt also doing is that he's doing causal conclusions from mostly correlational data. This is what I was speaking already on the beginning, like showing the increase of mobile phone usage and increase of mental health problems is not the correct way how to say that the mobile phones are the problem. It is simply not correct, and it is not true. He's also dismissing alternative explanations, for example, and doing generalization beyond the data. So he's saw some data correlational and doing a lot of generalization about the negative effect of media. I will not go through all the criticism. Readers can read the review there, but those books are typically not showing complex picture of the research on impact of ICT on adolescents and impact of ICT on well-being. So this is briefly about that. Not sure what was second part of the question. Sorry, I'm a little lost.
Yeah, no, I didn't even frame it as a question. Thank you for sharing that. It was just this wonder of myself of how is it possible that we're hearing these different things, and it's just because the world is very complex, and from us in using rigorous science, it's very hard to reach that certain conclusion that a particular mechanism is reaching a behavior in a complex society where lots of things are happening, as you mentioned, climate change, school pressure, and many other factors as well. I would like to know whether, because we're talking now mostly about adolescents, if we go to earlier ages, and from a developmental perspective, does it make sense to expose children to phones, screens, digital technology as soon as possible? Or should we wait until they develop certain skills like motor skills, socialization, or other things like that?
I must note that I did very few research on small children. We did some research on children about 6-7 years, but no research on very small children, because It's quite complicated to do research of these small children. You can do it only through parents, and now we do research on children from 9, and even from 9 there are big problems to ask them to fill the questionnaire. It must be very short, and so on. But on the other hand, we know something from the other research. I know that, if I remember right, American Pediatric Association has ruled no screens until 2 years old, I think. Now it was 3 years. I don't know if I remember that, but we definitely shouldn't expose to screens very small children, would be very simple answer. Because the brain is developing and the child is unable to, even for videos or very simple information, to work with the information correctly.
And something that's coming to my mind, because you mentioned, and thank you for answering about the small children. I'm now coming back to adolescents and thinking that, okay, books and films may be made for the general audience and to be made attractive. But what about governments that are banning social media, like Australia, for instance, for youth under 16 years old?
Yes. Our approach as a team is that there is not enough evidence for these bans. I'm quite a lot interested in banning mobile phones in schools, for example. And currently we are writing 2 articles on that, bans of mobile phones in schools. But it seems that there is no clear effect of bans or the outputs which you would expect. For example, on the Czech data, we didn't found effect of the ban on decrease of cyberbullying. We didn't find effect on improving of well-being. We didn't find effect on improving of excessive internet use or online addiction. So it seems that these effects of bans are very, very unclear, and I don't agree with the bans of social networks until 15 or 16 in those countries.
Interesting.
Because when the ban is causing just moving of adolescents somewhere, probably not in reality. I really have doubts that they stopped using mobile phones and starting to meet much more in forests and outside. I think there are always ways how to speak and what they can use, what kind of tools. So I have really doubts of the real effects of these bans.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand that when you ban something doesn't mean that it's not happening. Maybe you're making it more attractive even because now it's prohibited. And it feels like, threatening the government.
For example, what we are observing in both EU Kids Online data and Big PISA data, like children even don't know if there is ban or not in the school, because it's so confusing. Such half of the class is saying we have the general ban in the school, and the other half of the same class is saying we don't have any ban. So these bans have so many forms, and there are so many different ways how to give mobile phones back in the outside of the school, for example, or just have it under the chair or anything. So there are too many options with the bans, I think, and there is not clear that there is any effect.
Okay, this is really interesting. And another aspect that we didn't talk about it before while preparing for this session, but something that is coming to my mind is not just the addiction or the effect on relationships, which I can understand that they're shifting in a different way, and now they might be more digital. But what happens with kind of how influential we are and how easily we can be manipulated through technology. And I'm not just talking about children or young people, but really adults, everyone. It seems that we're in these media bubbles that take us to really polarize our societies, usually controlled by companies that are profiting from them through advertisement and so on. I remember a conversation I had with a little cousin I have. Well, not so little actually. He's almost an adult now, nearly 18. And I was asking him about his use of digital media and which platform he was in and which influencers he followed and so on. And all the time he was referring to products that they were selling to him, but not as products that they were selling to him, but as things that were amazing, he really wanted to have. But as he showed me the different profiles, it was very evident to me that that was something that was being sold to him, but he wasn't aware of it. I even told him, are you aware that they are selling you this? And he was like, no, this is something I want. It's like, okay, so maybe we have a challenge here. What about free will in this tech world?
Yeah, what concerning manipulation in general, not only the marketing related manipulation, but I mean only also fake news and manipulation with the public opinion and so on. This is definitely a big problem, including these marketing materials and marketing things which are maybe not good even for adolescents and so on, or even adults. And what I think is very important is to learn children and adolescents to look at and to use internet and to perceive information critically, like to learn them critical thinking in relation to information online, critical thinking in relation to goods which are sold on the internet, to marketing, critical thinking in relation to influencers, who they love sometimes and admire them, and they should be able to recognize that this product is just the way how the influencer is making money from them, and not to accept uncritically that this is definitely so good because he or she is showing that and promoting that. So I think the critical thinking is for me even maybe most important thing what we should learn children and adolescents in
And there,
relation.
and
Yeah.
I find a challenge there in the sense that like how to teach critical thinking. Obviously there are many ways, but if you have on a balance, right, philosophy for children, dialogue and research and so on, and on the other hand 4 to 5 hours a day on their phones on content that is designed based on their behaviors, on what they like more, what they click more on their on life, on that media bubble to manipulate them in a certain direction. I find not just children, but really anyone, but particularly young people, because they have been exposed to less things, to be really susceptible, quite vulnerable to this manipulation, and very hard to balance it, particularly with conventional classroom techniques of teaching critical thinking.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. Also, we don't have research directly on this kind of manipulation and marketing materials, but I can only agree that this is a big problem, and adolescents should be learned how to approach that and how to avoid uh, being manipulated through social networks and influencers and so on. And even critical thinking in relation to AI, and the
Yeah.
chatbots and chatbot friends, because a lot of them are not aware what is really AI, that it is just a language model selecting the most probable word in the end. And because it seems so nice, so smart in some moments, but so they should be learned how to use it and what are limitations, that it's not a real friend. They know it's not real, but that it's not thinking, the model is not kind of thinking. I think they very often perceive it as thinking, but it's not thinking in the end.
Mhm. But it like that's for me like the obvious part, no? When they are trying to sell us something. But then when we enter in topics that are way deeper, like for example the external validation that we look through our bodies, or look for a particular definition of success, that's way more difficult to even question, because that kind of it's inside a paradigm that everybody is moving in that direction. So questioning that, and it's really hard because everybody that we can see in our bubble is kind of following that particular direction. So
And I think that's the challenge, look, that it's not everyone, but it looks as if it's everyone when you just
exactly,
look through social media, right?
that's
When
why
you
I
start
said
asking around to family and friends, you find that many people don't agree with it, but what you get exposed to is kind of the extreme in many cases.
but that's the bubble that you see. It's like you can only see that and compare yourself with that part.
Uh, Not sure if you mean a relation to influencers and admiring that influencers are creating norms, or
In general, like the perception, imagine, no, the definition of success, we have to have a house really big, really beautiful, also a car, also really new, the last thing always. And then the definition of success that we establish in our lives is completely dependent on what we see from that outside world. And when we compare ourselves with that definition of success, it's like, oh shit, I'm not doing so well. Also with our bodies, for example. So
Hmm.
that like really what we perceive, what we see and can perceive from that bubble, digital bubble that we are in, I completely feel that affects fully the personality of a person, and even the definition of what happiness means, their definition of what they want to achieve in life, how they want to look like. So it's like, for me, it's such a topic that is really really hard to, because only critical thinking there, I'm not sure that it solves the problem.
on the other hand, there were in my childhood when there was no internet, we had these magazines, and media always created in some way the definition of what is good, definition how you should look like, and this kind of stuff you are speaking about, and body image. I saw people in these magazines how they look and thinking about it, and even before the internet there were idols and influencers, not on the internet but influencers through magazines and TV. So it's not new in the end, it's just easier to share the information maybe.
Yeah, and it's more personalized also.
It's
Like
more
before, you could see a variety and then you could choose that this thing I like the most, so I'll go in that direction. But
I,
now it's way more personalized, so you don't see so much the other
the
things that are going.
personalization, yeah, I agree with that. This personalization can cause several problems because, for example, we did research on women and girls with uh, uh, sorry, I forgot the term in English. Like eating behaviors, bad disorder problems in relation to eating disorders. Yeah, and anorexia and bulimia, for example. And in this way, previously, these people or women, let's say, with such problems were more isolated in the end. But now they can make groups and they can very easily find similar people, then can normalize the behavior in this kind of groups. Uh, in this way, as you are saying, they receive personalized information, how lose weight, for example, what are products for losing weight, and this is making the danger jumping in a spiral, which is making the problem worse and worse in the end. But
Mhm.
it's very typically it's not that the internet caused that problem,
Yeah.
it's rather that the woman or girl already had the problem for different reasons, but the problem became worse because of the internet and because of the technology. But on the other hand, what we observed in this research, when they, for some reason, had motivation to become healthy, then the technology was helping them to become healthy, to find experts, to be in the groups for the recovery, and so on. So again, the internet and technology was serving in the good way and also in the bad way. It serves
Yes.
us in relation to our motivation. When our motivations are negative for some reason, such as from family problems or depressive mood or even worse problems, then the technology can serve as a bad servant, so said.
Mhm.
It can make the problem even worse, and we can jump into spiral of problems and so on. And
Mhm.
even finding people to which are similar. For example, these girls did competition in the losing weights and this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's a tool. It's a tool, and depending on how you wanna use it, you can use it properly or you can use it in the ground side. So it depends
Mm.
on you.
Exactly.
Maybe we take it to that side. So if it depends on you, and now we're talking about young people and children, how do we support them? Maybe I can take it to the personal side, if you don't mind, David. And I think you have children, right? What recommendation do you give to your own children, or do you reach any agreements, or do they have full freedom to do as they wish?
Oh yeah, this is very hard question in the end. Very much. If I speak about myself a little bit, I am very much liberal parent and doing not so much rules, especially for older children. I have three daughters, 7 years old, 16, and 19 now. So there is quite big differences, and I had opportunity to be parent from the zero to adulthood already. So I saw the changes. How can I approach with my so-called digital parenting? Uh, so I can say I am quite liberal, but it's clear that on the other hand, the young children must have some control. It's quite hard to give them, and maybe even mistake in many cases, not to make any control of digital technology usage for 5, 6, 7 years old, because it could become easily out of their control. So we have to be with them on the technology, make rules, time rules, rules when they can use it, and so on. But the control should be less and less according to adolescents. There should be less and less control. And what I think what children should learn even from early childhood is how to stop the technology usage. That it's not fight to get it with out of them, but they should learn to control themselves. So this learning them and supporting them in that self-control is very important in my perception.
Thank you. That's such a good point, and that's a lot of what we advocate for in evolving education, and it's agency. An agency has that critical thinking, self-regulation, and it's something that can be built um, a long time. And I think you put it quite wisely, like that every year kind of getting more responsibility really on their
Mm.
lives, so that little by little they become autonomous, independent adults able to make conscious decisions about their lives. Um, and yeah, I mean that time control and agreements is a really fiery topics. We do trainings for families and for educators, and this is never an easy conversation. That's why we were so shocked when you talk about that there was an addiction and so on, when we have so many families and teachers and youth workers saying we cannot get them out of their phones once they are in there. What has helped you to develop that self-regulation?
Oh yeah, good question. Uh, well, I think there are several ways from the early childhood, such as with the 7 years old. I'm saying here now you should stop, because when you don't know how to stop, you cannot use it. So in the end, when she will not stop in certain like with the last small cinema or something, I will take it out and she will not get it another day, for example, to get the idea that I should learn how to stop. So I'm even saying her just you must be able to stop, otherwise you can't use it. And she's thinking, okay, so now I stop. I want to stop, and it's enough. So even speaking about it openly and giving her some cues when it is enough, that she cannot use it all the time. So at least this. For older adolescents, it's harder, I think, such as I guess that from 13, 14, 15, I kind of practically lose control over their mobile phones, because on the other hand, it can make your relationship with the child worse in the end. Because young adult, almost adolescent, from in that age, at that age, want their autonomy. They want their own space. They don't like to be controlled. So there should be at least some safe space that you can speak with them. I try always to ask them, like, what you are doing, why you are doing that, can we do it even together, look, show me what interesting you saw on Instagram, for example, or I am asking what you are sharing on Instagram or TikTok, and why you like it. So I'm at least asking some questions, and sometimes I get answers, sometimes I get no answers.
Mm-hmm.
From older,
I can understand that's a really tough conversation, and it's even tougher, I think, after what you told us, because that conversation from me started with, "Look, this is designed to be addictive. It's gonna cause problems for your mental health." But you're saying us that that's not the case. So then I have no arguments now to talk with teenagers about why they should use less their phones.
No, it's good to explain them. It was made that to be addictive, but it's late when they are 15. I think they will say, we had 10 courses on that. It's so boring. It's not interesting discussion. We already heard that. It's clear to everybody. They would tell me, I think. So I think it's hard to find the right age when they are still hearing you, and when you can give it's kind of instructions or advices when they hear you before you get already too when they are too autonomous.
But too autonomous, but at the same time, it feels like already I don't want to say addictive, because apparently that's not the reality of what research says. But it seems that willingness to be on their devices is stronger than any other thing.
On the other hand, what they do on the devices, they very often speak with them friends, and some authors even 25 years ago were saying that it's good for them because they need to get more independent of parents in certain age, in 15, 16. What is the developmental goal? To get independent of parents, and they are safely in the house here, and they are independent because they communicate with their friends. So for them it's more natural to communicate with them friends than coming to the father and speaking about the life with the father.
But they don't necessarily meet in person with their friends so much, no?
Oh, they meet with friends, definitely, even outside.
Okay.
They are in school, and they go outside after the school. So I'm not sure. There is this time displacement hypothesis that this time on media should move out some other time. I'm not 100% aware about these results, but I think that the main result is that what was much limited is the passive showing TV, like other usage of media, and instead of that, they use media more actively for communication and social networks and so on. But I'm not sure if really time with friends is something what is decreasing across last 20 years. This is an interesting question. I don't think that this offline time with friends decreased so much, I would guess.
What it comes to me is the attention also, like how do we use our attention? If we, like, there is this thing also now about that the attention, the attention span is every time less and less, and I'm guessing that also being exposed to social media, I'm guessing, I'm not sure if this is correct, but obviously we are, our attention is kind of getting trained in a way that is every time shorter.
Mm.
And that,
Maybe.
sorry.
I'm not an expert on attention, I must admit. We do not research of cognitive functions and so on, but I didn't find research showing like clearly negative impact of usage digital media on cognitive functions, for example. This is not so clear. I agree with the attention in terms that if you have your mobile phones in the class, in the school, it's a disruption. It's clear that it's not helping with the attention. But on the other hand, they are maybe able to do more multitasking than in 20, 30 years ago. I'm not sure about this topic.
I'm not sure how good is multitasking either to be able to be in the present and be here and now. No? Anyways, and just to finish, because the hour has passed super fast, what recommendation would you give to our audience of educators and youth workers? How can they best support young people in their digital habits?
Mhm. I would say what they should do is to speak with them, what they are doing with media and how, to learn them critical thinking, to learn them what are limits of technology, how to use it safely. Definitely, this is very important, but not to give restrictions in the end, because restrictions are not helping. This we call this active mediation, and active mediation for parents, even educators, mean speaking with adolescents, co-using the technology with adolescents, knowing what the adolescent is doing, supporting adolescents use it in the positive way, for example. I think adolescents need positive examples how to use technology in a good way, how to use technology to help them in the life, but not to limit the life. So this is very briefly said from my side.
Thank you very much, David. And you leave us with a very important message, that is that wherever we want to teach, we need to first implement it in our own lives, and to become role models of healthy habits with our own devices and social media usage and so on, so that we can transmit that to the new generations. And
Yes.
definitely that process of questioning dialogue, to bring back that question of what am I doing with my life, with my time, whether it's devices or any other thing that they're doing with their lives, and questioning how good is that doing to themselves, and what's the next step that they could make to make their lives every time more fulfilling.
Yes.
Thank you very much for sharing. Anything else you would like to share?
I'm fine. Not sure if what is the conclusion of this. I think you did good conclusion right now.
It's a tough topic. That's what I got from it. That it's not such a clear answer as I thought at the beginning of this conversation it would be.
Yeah, for me, my conclusion is technology is a tool, and we have to learn how to use it properly. Also, there's an important thing there of reflecting about the impact that it has, because if I'm a person that I'm really struggling and I'm all the time looking for external validation, then maybe I should use it less. But that requires a lot of self awareness and reflection, and then we really need supporters. We need our parents and facilitators and people that are having those conversations with us and are supporting us to find to use it as properly as a tool that help us to grow. not something that ends up being detrimental. And for me also, the core is the relationship. If we are able to have really good relationships with our children, or also with our students and learners, that is going to bring the conversation. They are going to share with us, we are going to also share with them, and then we are going to learn together how to use it properly, in a way that we agree, for example.
I completely agree. If I can conclude, the positive relationship in families and positive relationship to parents is in our research like most strong and most important positive predictor of positive outputs. Even very strong like it's going against risks and even against exposure to risks and against the harm. So the positive relationship to children, and even from the side of teachers, is very much helping them even in the online world in the end. So it's a
Thank you.
protective factor of online risks.
Thank you. That's a great message to end this conversation of the importance of strong relationships, really at the core of everything.
Okay.
Thank you very much, David, and everyone that was listening. We'll continue next month with another amazing topic, this time the impact of nature on our own well-being. And see you.
Thank you so much for invitation. See you. Bye bye.
There we are.